Welcome to the Phil and the Kid podcast. I'm Phil Gardner.
And I'm Spiro.
And today we're talking about why Toronto and Chick-fil-A. Lauren got a job offer, or she has a job offer coming right now after she's been searching like all summer, and it's going to end up better for her for sure. But
that's good.
She was expecting a letter to come in yesterday, or an offer to come in yesterday, and then a phone call afterwards. And she's freaking out yesterday. She was like, "Oh my god, they didn't send me the letter or anything, right?" I was like, "But they want to call tomorrow." I'm like, "If I'm them, all I want to do is get you on the phone so that I can negotiate with you salary wise on the phone, so you don't have a chance to look at the letter or go talk to your dad, go talk to your husband." Go talk to, other girlfriends or whoever to figure out how much you should be making and then negotiate back, right? She's texting me right now being like, "Okay, they're offering me X on the call. What should I go back at?" I'm like,
man, that's the toughest part about getting a 9 to 5 is the
job.
Yeah.
Phil's on the fly negotiation assistance available now for a measly sum of $9.99 a month.
I'm gonna put my phone away.
Anyways,
too.
Yeah,
let's start this thing off.
Okay.
Boom!
Is that loud enough?
We're back.
Is that loud enough? And now it's time. In the not blue corner. Okay, fucking Phil.
Ladies and gentlemen, fighting out of the blue corner, weighing 254 pounds. Jesus.
Not me.
Not us.
Not me.
Not these guys.
Not terribly far off, but not me. not there yet.
All right, let's get this thing going.
Okay, Am I comfortable enough? Can you see my? Oh, you can still. Fuck it. Who cares?
That's okay. Your little stain. Your love stain on your shirt. It's fine.
All right. So
how did your meeting go? You were just in a meeting.
Yeah, the meeting was good. This funny story about like just networking and the whole your network is your net worth concept and all that stuff, right? We back in oh god, it must have been like February now. I was doing a lease for a client in City Place. We had a condo lease available, and I showed this guy. This was an MLS lease. Showed this guy from BC. He was just moving over here for work, and I guess part of just not always trying to sell just for the sake of selling, and being a nice person and giving people the information that they actually should be getting. Right, this guy was asking me about City Place versus Liberty Village. I've lived in City Place and I currently live in Liberty Village. Unfortunately, I think I personally prefer Liberty, and I was renting a condo in City Place, and I guess the opinion came across that, hey, listen, I think Liberty might end up being better for him in his situation. Needless to say, I didn't get the lease done. However, 2 weeks later, I see this guy walking down my laneway. I'm in the townhouse area there, walking down my laneway, and he ended up renting a spot that's like 4 doors away from me. We have like common neighbors and stuff. So we started shooting this shit. We started chatting, and then eventually he brought me out. This is a really long-winded story. Way to meet somebody. But asked me to come for beers one night. Went out for some brews with some of his buddies, and then I guess another buddy came along that works in he works in like the digital marketing space. He's killing it in the digital marketing space, and we just kind of hit it off a little bit. I told him, hey, listen, you work with real estate stuff. Let's go have a chat. So we had a little coffee meeting this morning. Definitely interested to learn more about what we do, the investment space. Yeah, he works with a lot of condos and things like that, and was curious to see how the freehold kind of could stack up to condo investments. So I think we'll see how it goes, but he's going to come out for a tour next week, and that should be good. That's kind of the beginnings of a good client/friend relationship. And I think that all circles back to I never would have met this guy if all I was trying to do was hard sell the original dude into this condo lease in City Place. Maybe I get the condo lease done, never see the guy again, right? Instead, he's a cool dude, got a new friend, met another couple of cool dudes, and leading to a potential long-term client.
So what do you think? What are the big differences between City Place and Liberty Village, in your opinion?
City Place for me, so when I first moved to Toronto from Newmarket, so smaller town, if you will, but when we first moved to Toronto, we moved to City Place, kind of like a lot of other people I find. We were early mid-20s. It's very dorm roomy, if you will. Like it's a lot of condo tower. I never knew my neighbors. A lot of just party all the time. It is nice that they are building a school there finally. So I think that will change the demographic of the neighborhood a little bit when that school is finally finished in probably 2 years, I guess, at this point. But it was very party heavy. There were a lot of Airbnbs. And personally, I'm not a huge condo dweller. We had a lot of midnight fire alarms and things, which are never hugely fun. In Liberty, I actually know my neighbors, and that could be because A, we're not in a condo anymore, and B, we have a dog now, right? We're out and about and actually meeting other dog parents and like our neighbors in the townhome area and stuff. So
dogs are a great way for that too.
Oh,
every morning I walk my dog, see the same neighbors.
Yeah. We like even some of our neighbors that have they've lived in Liberty in the townhomes that have been our neighbors for years, only just recently got a dog, and they're now meeting all their neighbors, right? And they're like, we've probably walked past each other dozens, hundreds of times, and I never knew you. I don't know your name. I've never met you before. Meanwhile,
there's
as
nothing
soon
to
as
talk about.
Exactly, right? As soon as I have a dog, I'm stopping. My dog's meeting your dog, and it's actually like encouraging people to thanks butt sniffers to encouraging me to meet my neighbors. That is all I needed in my life. My Callie, my dog, has taken me from an introvert to a hey, at least I'll know my neighbors now. Thank you for butt sniffing. God. But
so that was your meeting.
That was the long and short of it. Great meeting. Yes, great meeting this morning. How's your editing of our podcast been so far? I know that's been a common, constant for you recently.
Yeah, and you know what? It's kind of a learning curve right now. It's been a learning curve. I dealt with a lot of editing in my past just for fun. A lot of fun projects with my friends, 10 years ago.
Right.
So I always came from that background and I had that knowledge already. But I don't know, learning on the fly, it is pretty difficult. Yeah. I have a lot of respect for people who do this, a lot more than I did before, especially a lot of the random YouTube content creators. Like it seems pretty easy,
right?
For you see this person talking in front of a camera, blah blah blah. They have 1 million views, and it's just like what? But it is actually pretty difficult. So here's one to them. I'm feeling it firsthand right now. But it's also pretty fun. I mean, I do got to get back to work a lot of the time, and it's like, all right, no, I got to kind of handle clients and meet new people. So. It's about balancing the time now, and we'll see going forward. I mean, I'm still learning it, and I'm sure the videos will get better.
Yeah, for sure.
Right now, it's our second video.
Yeah.
So this will be up soon, and you'll see the quality though. Hopefully by our 20th, 30th, 50th. That's
we'll get slow, steady increments. And this whole thing has been such a cool learning experience, and God, I'm very glad you're the one doing most of the editing, because I think I would botch all of it. So I'm glad you're learning.
Yeah, so I'm the one. I'll take accountability if there's any bad editing. That's probably the kid
for now.
Yeah, for now, and for now. We'll wait.
Yeah,
better things to come soon.
Yeah, for sure. Nice. Okay. So what else is going on? Anything exciting before we dive into the topic of the week?
I don't know. What else have we done? The winery. The winery was a really good time. We went with the team at Urban Village. How many of us were there?
I think it was seven. Seven of us. Yeah, 7 hit up the Niagara on the Lake wine tour.
Yeah, we went to 4 different ones. Yeah. I think one was called
I think Pilotary is the only one I remember, just because of their
Nomad
sweet table.
Nomad.
Oh, Nomad, yes. Nomad was good. Nomad had a very good business plan that we were all into.
Yeah, Nomad was really cool because it was an art gallery and a winery. Yeah. So there was a lot of art to it. I know one of the owners is an artist, I believe. Or maybe both. I think the wife or something was an artist. One of them's an artist. Yeah. And so it's really cool. Like you walk in to see their production room, and the first thing you see is art.
Yeah. No, it was really nice. It was really nice.
Everywhere.
When you have a bus full of realtors and you're explaining things about a winery and you drop in terms like cash flow, everyone gets excited. Yeah. So I think we all paid a little bit more attention to that one. And then we had the architecture in the basement of that Pilotary, I think it was the longest poured
table.
concrete table or something like that, until the French decided to one-up them and pour one slightly longer.
Yeah, so now the French have the longest concrete table. That's what I was like. I went to the lady on taking us on the tour, and I was like, who tried to do this? Like, was this your goal? Why you wanted the longest table? And she just answered, yeah, that's pretty much it. They poured it, and they're like, yeah, now it's the longest. So
okay, well, there you go. There you go. And there's some cool chairs to go along with it. And there was a lot of I don't know if you remember the Jim Carrey movie 23. I think that guy watched that a few too many times.
Yeah, his favorite number.
Way too much 23 in that guy's life.
Everything was 23.
Yeah.
23 chairs. What else was it?
I think it was like his son was born on the 23rd, and like his daughter was born on the 23rd.
And then there was the one kid that wasn't.
Yeah, the one kid's born on like the 2nd.
And it's just like,
poor guy.
Oh man, poor kid. Yeah.
That's it.
Frito.
Yeah.
That's his Frito.
No kidding. Oh my gosh.
All right, so today we're gonna talk about why Toronto.
Yeah. Why should you live in Toronto? Why should you invest in Toronto? What's great about Toronto, maybe what's not, why you shouldn't, but kind of all things Toronto. We are Toronto realtors. We live in Toronto. We love the city. So let's dive right into it.
So what's the first thing you tell people about Toronto? Because I know a lot of people, especially millennials and people pretty much between 20 and I would say early 40 or mid 30s mainly, like the concept of buying somewhere else out of the GTA or on the outskirts of the GTA. So
yes.
You hear a lot about Hamilton, London.
Guelph is becoming big.
Guelph and Waterloo.
Brampton is becoming very popular.
Brampton, all those, even Ajax to some extent. But you hear a lot of those cities or towns, whatever. Cities, I guess they're cities, come up. What's the first thing you tell one of your clients or just someone you're having a conversation with?
So I'm seeing this a lot. Like I said, I'm born and raised Newmarket, wife's from Aurora. We've got a lot of friends that are in that pocket as well they considered moving out of the neighborhood and left Toronto as an option simply because, and maybe not simply because, but a lot of which is that image of unaffordability, right? That comes with Toronto. So we have a lot of friends that now are living in the Brampton area or in the Guelph area, Kitchener, Waterloo, because you can buy quite a nice a 3-bed home, detached, single car garage for, $500-600 grand is pretty common. What I like to argue with those people is the unaffordability aspect that they seem to think is, due to just the geographic location. It's not impossible to buy a property in Toronto for very similar capital and cost you very similar money monthly, and not a hugely, you don't have to get into a condo, like a small condo versus like a 3-bed home. There is going to be some sacrifices, but some that maybe want to consider renting a basement apartment, right? I look at a person who maybe bought a similar property, 3-bed home in Brampton or Guelph for nowadays, let's call it 600 grand or so. You could get into a property in Toronto that's not terribly, too far apart. The lot might not be as large, but you can get, let's call it 750, 800 pretty comfortably. And a lot of these properties will have a basement apartment that'll rent for $1,400, and that should cover the difference in your mortgage payment. So for those that think it's just a financially monthly income, can't afford it, that's kind of my first challenge, my first argument. For those that do live and work in those other smaller cities, and if that's their pace of life and they want to live and work there, all the power to them, right? All the power to them. But for me and a lot of our friends and family work in the city and maybe live outside, I think especially in today's day and age, it's much better for for just your lifestyle is to live closer to work as possible or as close to work as possible, so that you don't have to be jumping in and out of 2-hour traffic every day, right? That to me was one of the biggest decisions living downtown. To make that move downtown was I didn't know like for sure, but I knew like, in my heart of hearts, there's going to be more opportunity in the big city, if you will, right, than from Newmarket. So we kind of bit the bullet and just ate the additional cost. And so I'm positive to this day that I wouldn't be where I am. I wouldn't have, the lifestyle, the income, even if I had stuck in Newmarket or a Guelph or a Brampton. I think a lot comes with just the change of pace of a life in Toronto or any big city. Really.
Well, just to touch on that, I actually was just on a showing. This was yesterday.
Yep.
And it was in Deep Scarborough.
Deep Scarbs.
So from central Toronto, where we are right now, located pretty much right in the middle.
Yep.
It took me 55 minutes to get there.
Right.
In rush hour. So
that's not even that bad.
That's not that bad. I was dying.
Yeah.
I did not want to do it. And the worst part, my clients message me and say, we're going to be a few minutes late. Somebody rear-ended us.
Oh, no.
In the traffic. Yep. So all of that happened. Yeah. I mean, they got there. They still beat me there, which, I mean, we were both running late. It was the traffic was crazy. And, I mean, sometimes you're not as used to that in downtown Toronto because it is so – it's really dense traffic, but it's not a long distance. Yeah. But then as soon as you get to that, like even Scarborough, which isn't too, it's still Toronto, but it's more getting to the outskirts. Yeah. Even just to Scarborough, it took me 55 minutes. So I'm just imagining some people drive 2 hours a day.
Oh yeah.
To and from work.
Yeah. Oh yeah.
So that, I don't know. I don't think I could do that. No. I mean, it's something totally different. It's a whole another beast.
It's crazy. I tried before when I was still living in Newmarket, and I had a job or training for a position. Thankfully, only a very brief stint, a month long in the core of the city. And yeah, it was 2 hours each way. And I mean, the car that I was driving was not the most traffic friendly. Stage 3 clutch was a little bit heavy for stop and go for 2 hours each way. But yeah, that was a pretty clean decision of no, I'm never doing this again for the drive and stuff. But I think one thing too is just the accessibility when you have a city that's so densely packed. And I mean, our transit isn't perfect, but it is far better than some of the smaller cities around, and there are so many options for transit. And my wife's going to give me shit for this because I think I only just recently took a streetcar for the first time like 2 days ago. But it is what it is. Again, small town, still getting used to things even now. But when you have, like my meeting this morning, for example, would have been a 10-minute drive. I mean, it was a nice day. I just stuck my headphones in and went for a walk, and it was like 12 minutes to get there. Like it's so many things and so accessible, right? And there's a lot of nice things. You can like walk by a dog park, walk by some new construction sites, got a cool view of the skyline while I was, on the way over there.
You're close to the water too, not too far.
Yeah, exactly. We're about a 10-minute walk to kind of the middle of Ontario Place, or maybe 15-minute walk to the middle of Ontario Place, which is a great spot to walk the dog for sure.
And the CNE's right there every year.
Yeah, exactly. CNE just wrapped up.
TFC game.
Yeah. Oh God, when there's a TFC game, Liberty Village shuts down.
Yeah.
It's nuts. The streets are, especially if we win, right? Everyone on the streets.
And Liberty Village has some of the nicest bars and patios.
Yeah.
Probably in the city.
Yeah, it's a good area. It's definitely a good. It's a good like family friendly, early. Maybe not family friendly, but like early family neighborhood for sure.
Yeah,
like
young couples,
late 20s, early 30s kind of thing is our core demographic.
Young professionals.
Yeah, exactly. Late 20s, early 30s, young professionals. Dog is seemingly mandatory to live in Liberty Village.
Liberty Village
really
is the place you go where you don't want to party as much anymore. You're out of that stage in your life, and you're going on to the next stage, but you're not quite there yet.
Exactly.
It's not like the mature home level.
Yeah, and then
you're raising 3 kids.
No kidding. Then you level up from there, and you go to you got lots of options.
Rosedale.
Yeah, there you go.
Forest
Hill. Yep, exactly. Depending on your income bracket.
You actually you spoke about renting out a basement. So why choose Toronto over one of the surrounding areas on an investment perspective? So from an investment perspective, why should we?
Okay, so there's a few different reasons I think that that's worth looking at for an investment perspective. The biggest one, and I was comparing properties that I had looked at back when I lived in Newmarket and I thought would make solid investments, maybe back 3-4 years ago, and I'm looking at the rents for their basement apartments and their main floor apartments. And over the course of 4 years, they might have moved $100, right? When I'm looking at these units, and we're mentioning $1,400 basements, right? 2 years ago, those basements were $1,000, right? And the same basement would rent for $1,000, maybe $1,100, and 2 years later they're $1,400, $1,500. I think we've got basements that are renting at $1,800 a month at this point, which to most people from the outside looking in seems absolutely insane, right? But looking a little more insular from Toronto itself, that's ultimately it. We had a 3-bedroom basement rent for $1,800. If you're looking at it by the room, that's kind of cheap rent nowadays, right? So one of the largest things and one of the biggest benefits for a lot of our clients' portfolios is the speed at which the rents are raising, and which increases obviously their cash flows monthly after all their expenses. But also, it's more protected, right? In Toronto, there is essentially no more freehold land left, right? And if there is, it comes at a very, very steep price. If you're talking about like buildable, big-time builder land, right? In a lot of these other cities, there is still going to be more building happening, more construction maybe they're going to be building townhouses, or they've got space still left for semis and detached properties. Very uncommon in Toronto, so I like the idea of owning a piece of freehold land in a city where there isn't any left, right? And then especially in a city where we're building outwards towards this like Oak Ridges Moraine up to the north, and then you've got these other cities on the east and west that are already having their own construction, plus the water to the south. It gives us a little bit of this Manhattanization type of thing. I mean, I'm not an economist, so don't take my word for it, but I think we are pretty protected from a lot of these market turns and things. So
there's sort of a safety net there.
Exactly. I personally believe there is a safety net. Again, that's just one man's opinion, but I do believe just a lot of the different factors around the city of Toronto provides a safety net for not only investors, right? Like to talking about cash flows and rental properties and things, but for people buying their own home as well, right? If we look back a few years ago, even a couple years ago, 2017, when there was a bit of a turn in the market after the foreign buyer tax was introduced, that impacted the outside markets, the rest of the GTA, significantly more than it impacted Toronto proper, if you will, right? A lot of these properties in Toronto, not including the super high-end portion of the market, because that's the first thing that usually gets hit and kind of stays hit if there's any kind of economic downturn.
And even right now, the super high end hasn't jumped largely in price. It stays pretty stable.
Yeah, exactly. It certainly hasn't. I don't believe it's caught back up to where it was, right? But the entry level properties, that $700,000, $800,000, $900,000 entry level, if you will, in Toronto, that pocket really hasn't shifted, and at this point, 2 years later, it is fully recovered for the most part and is back on the rise. It took maybe a bit of a 1 year hiatus.
It actually stalled.
Yeah, exactly.
It didn't really go down.
Some properties in the absolute peak took a bit of a turn down, but for the market on the whole, most of them really just kind of plateaued out for the year, right? The year-over-year increase really just hit a plateau and is now starting to get very warm again. Markets like Richmond Hill, for example, have still not recovered, right? And it will be a while. Even markets like Newmarket have still not recovered. I was looking at kind of creeping properties around, obviously just like to look where I used to live, but creeping properties that back in 2017 were one street was selling constantly in the millions, right? Or just hitting very frequent millions. And now, even today, mid to late 2019, is lucky for some of these properties that are otherwise comparable to break 850, right? And that's 2 years after. So that to me provided a little bit of like a comfort, if you will, that we are a little bit more insulated, and I think we're more insulated for many different factors, work and the immigration rate into Toronto being a couple of them for sure.
So that's something I actually always look at too, is and when I get that question that always comes up, the difference between a Hamilton and Waterloo to some extent, London to some extent, the surrounding cities of Toronto.
Yep.
I'm not saying specifically those cities, so I'm just generalizing right now.
Yeah.
But the big thing Toronto has is many different industries. So a lot of these are one industry cities, or maybe two if they're big enough.
Yep.
And that they can hold that. But Toronto's so strong. There's Bay Street, there's factories, so many different industries. I mean, it goes on and on.
Yeah.
We have a big harbor. We have
the film industry is massive in Toronto.
Huge.
The tech industry obviously being absolutely gigantic in Toronto.
There are also still a bunch of factories in Toronto and just on the outskirts. So that alone, it creates some type of safety net where you're not going to get the Detroit effect in Toronto, where one thing goes and everybody loses their jobs. Nobody could afford their mortgage. House prices fall and everybody's screwed. Yeah. You're not going to see something like that in Toronto. And if you ever do, it's something way worse. Something way worse is happening.
Yeah, it'll be a global problem.
That's a global problem.
A countrywide issue that's impacting things, right?
At that point, I mean, everybody's affected.
Yeah, that's not something you can really
protect
against.
Yeah, it's a catastrophe. So that's something not to worry too much about, because it is out of our control and any individual's control. Unless you have a Trump-like figure, that's pretty much out of anybody's control.
We'll stay out of U.S. politics.
Yes, we're gonna stay out of U.S. politics and Canadian politics.
Yeah, no kidding.
We'll try to stay out until I run 2040.
Hey, there you go. The kid first prime minister.
Wow.
I remember which country we're in, I swear.
But so that's a big thing. That it's the industries, and that's what a lot of people ask me is, the bubble's gonna crash in Toronto, or when's
bubble.
that? And they say it with a sort of smirk on their face, like they know it's happening.
Yeah. Oh, you guys are gonna get burned.
Oh, this is something I've debated a countless amount of professors on, all my economic professors, and they always, I think, got a good laugh out of it, because at the end they knew they didn't have the answers, and I knew I don't have the answers. That's a lot of what economics is just guessing. It's a forecast. It's an educated opinion.
Yep.
So they would always say, but the interest rate might rise. Well, they told me that over a year ago, and it's actually stayed the exact same.
Yeah, actually I think it's gone down.
It's actually gone down. So that being said, there's so much that you can't. They all told me, it's going to go up a full percentage, and then what's going to happen to all the homes, and this is going to happen. And I said, hold on. First of all, if it does go up a percentage, not much will happen.
There's a stress test in place for things like that.
Exactly.
Right? We're testing it multiple percentage points higher than what your actual mortgage rate's going to be. So if it goes up one, you're still in okay shape in the most part. And that this is, lessons that our banking industry has learned from the last time things like this happened.
Yes. So the bubble effect is, I think people are just so surprised at what the homes are actually valued right now, because they want to think, they should be all $500,000.
Yes.
Where they don't understand that we are in New York. We are, San Francisco. We are that type of city now. And actually we're growing, where Toronto has one of the highest amounts of cranes in North America.
Oh my God.
So the amount of cranes in Toronto, I'm pretty sure, is the most out of any city in North America.
I can see that. I could 100% see that.
I mean,
walking
fact
out of my
check
door every day, I see. I can see that. I mean, I can count outside, right, like 100-meter walk from my house. I can count probably 12 cranes in vision, right? At any given time.
Just wait 5 years, 10 years. How many more buildings will be up?
Yeah.
How much more dense the city will be, and how much more your property will be worth. Yeah.
There's I heard this recently on another podcast, and I'm sorry I can't remember exactly which one, but that somebody had mentioned something along the lines of every global city on this planet has had, over the course of their largest development has happened over the course of like a 40 to 60 year window, right? Manhattan having its own, and even cities like Rome and things like that, when they came to their up until their largest state, had this massive inflow of development, and then it kind of hit a peak where, okay, listen, we can't go up anymore. Maybe one day we'll start to get into subterranean properties, but we're not quite there yet. But I think we're in the midst of our gigantic construction boom now, and there's going to come a time in the next couple of decades, I'm sure, within our lifetime, absolutely, that there's no more cranes in the city because there's no more space, period, to go vertically, horizontally, or whatnot, right? And I think things are only going to get worse for people that are calling a bubble burst at that point, right? Or the things are just going to get more and more and more unaffordable. To call a bubble burst is, I mean, ideally, for us as an investor, that would be great, right? We could start buying up properties left, right, and center. But I'm not going to stop and hold my breath at the same time, right? If anybody could accurately predict a bubble, then they would be a trillionaire.
Warren Buffett, maybe.
Yeah. He might be the closest person to it. But I think he just operates on very sound investment tactics. He's not...
and he keeps investing. That's something that keeps him going and keeps his portfolio growing, is that he doesn't wait for something crazy to happen. He doesn't wait. Once you start waiting today, 4 or 5 years go by and you're still waiting. And because the prices have only gotten more unaffordable, right? And that's anything. Look at Bitcoin. If people sat there when it first came out and said, I'm going to wait 4 years and then it's going to crash probably, so I don't want to even invest. People invested right away. It did, but it's still worth what?
Oh, yeah, way more than if they were to invest right away and cash out when it was high.
Exactly.
Even today, right?
So, there's always that scared risk you take. It's more about overcoming your own fear than anything else.
There's a really common saying that I've heard, quite a bit in the beginning of real estate investing, is instead of don't wait to buy real estate and then wait, right? The biggest gain you have is over a long term with the wealth creation that real estate can allow. Instead of waiting and waiting and waiting and waiting for that bubble to burst, and then things are just so much more unaffordable. Even if the bubble does burst, it goes down 10%, call it 20%. Their properties, especially in Toronto, if you're talking about the recent 4 or 5 years, are still more expensive than when you first started, right? And the entire time you could have been paying down your mortgage, and your tenant could have been paying you some cash flow, and all these other aspects.
Let's bring this back. So we're talking about investments. And you might have touched on this a little bit, but what are the differences in rents that you see from a Toronto property, let's say Midtown Toronto, where we operate mainly, and let's say an outskirts? I can touch a little bit on the outskirts, but let's say a Waterloo or
you
Hamilton.
Will definitely do better to touch on the outskirts if we're talking about Waterloo than I will. But
I can touch on anything too, but I want to hear your perspective on it.
Yeah, so it's a bit tougher because I haven't operated in those other markets for quite a while. I focus 100% on City of Toronto rental properties.
And I think
nowadays.
That's what our team really shifted gears to focus on.
Full tilt on Toronto rentals. But so let's talk about a 1-bedroom basement apartment as a benchmark, right? For ultimately the cheapest rental unit you can find in the City of Toronto, Midtown, with a decent height that's not in absolute shambles. You can expect to pay about $1,400 a month, all inclusive. That's a benefit, all inclusive for a basement apartment with like a 6'5" ceiling height, decent finishes, that type of thing. You're gonna go upwards of $1,800 if that 1-bedroom is above grade, so your main floor, top floor, something along those lines. If it ends up being in a condo, you're going to be looking closer to like $2,100 to $2,300, depending on the location and age of the condo as well, and whether or not it has parking, right?
I just rented one out for $3,200, 1-bedroom.
That's absolutely insane, right? That was in the core, right?
That's right at the water. It's a great apartment.
Yeah,
and the whole building, all the amenities it has.
Right.
Golf simulator.
That's
gym.
Sweet. How many square feet was that?
Putting me on the spot here.
Rough estimate.
It was 2 floors.
Oh, okay.
So it was one of those.
Like Queen's Quay
It was
ones?
A bedroom and a den. It was
Gotcha.
considered a bedroom and a den.
Like the old style ones on Queen's Quay, like that type of thing?
Yes.
Okay.
Yeah. It's exactly. It was, I believe, was it 10 Young?
Gotcha. Yeah, those are, that's pretty primo, right, in terms of location.
And they got a great deal because it's right where they wanted to be. Yeah. There's a parking spot. It wasn't actually no parking spot included, so they had to rent a parking spot above that.
On top of that, so and parking's $200 to $300
cables included,
probably.
Which is pretty cool.
Oh,
the
that's
whole
neat.
Building has
odd. That's old
style,
right?
Yeah.
So you're $3,500 for a 1-bedroom apartment, assuming it's pretty big, and in a great location. That's
That's what prime gets you.
Exactly.
A 1 bedroom.
Not many other places I can think where $3,500 is an acceptable 1 bedroom rent, right?
No.
So like, what's a 1 bedroom go for in Waterloo?
Waterloo, it goes anywhere from $800 to, I mean, $1,200.
Okay.
But that's $1,200 like would be
top of the line kind of thing.
Yeah, more top of the line stuff.
Gotcha.
I mean, Waterloo and London tend to focus on student housing, so there's more 2, 3, 4 bedrooms.
Right.
There's 3 bedrooms that the higher end ones could get $2,400.
Gotcha.
But what you're doing is you're spending, let's say, $500,000 to buy that place.
Yeah.
And you get that $2,400. The biggest risk of student housing, which you could see a lot of cash flow benefits.
Of course.
You don't get the housing hack in student housing as much because of the appreciation. You don't see that appreciation as much in student housing.
Gotcha.
They usually stay around.
I guess there, especially in big university towns too, there's very specific pockets that are student housing or that students want to be living in. Right?
Yes, and nobody else. It's just for students.
Just students.
The properties are in pretty rough condition, and you get students not treating them that well. So I mean,
the risk. I guess the
risk and reward are different.
That is a little bit higher. However, I do know a lot. I know a few guys that do that type of investing and have managed to make it work pretty well for them. I imagine the high cash flows certainly help offset some of the other issues.
So people see the cash flow, and that's the one thing that throws them off. They say, "Oh, I can get this much money a year."
Yep.
But they don't understand that they're gonna have to most likely put almost all of that, if not more, back on the property. Maybe it's not in that first year, but going forward, you're gonna have to replace things. There's gonna be some issues, and you don't get that reappraisal of that high value.
It's tougher, and a lot of student rentals too are, given they're rented by the room, you're not really cutting them up into different units and stuff.
No, it's just the one
entire thing by itself.
And then you get the tenant issues, and there's a lot to it. It's a lot, but I mean, it's not everybody's cup of tea. But some people have made.
Some
it
people
work
are killing
very
it doing that, right? It's everyone's got their own investment strategy. I know some guys do Airbnbs and are killing it that way. Meanwhile, it's not something that I personally would do. I don't think that's where my investment model fits, but I know some guys that are absolutely killing it. Airbnb.
That requires a lot of hands-on work.
A lot of management.
Yeah. That's if you're retiring or you don't have to focus on your job all the time.
I know there's I don't even know if they're considered property management companies, but there are Airbnb management, right? Like they'll get your cleaner, they'll do your key swaps, or you can use a lot of tech nowadays to handle like the exchanging of keys or key codes or something like that on your properties.
That's true. Yeah.
That would be a cool kind of way to, I guess, subvert some of the issues, some of the tribulations, if you will, through Airbnb. Lots of different strategies.
Vacancies are a lot higher too.
Yeah. You have to plan. I mean, the rates are higher, the vacancies are higher, so you kind of have to plan a little bit more of a long-term approach. Depends on the time of year too, right? And the type of property.
So those are the rents of Toronto. Let's talk about the lifestyle now a little bit. So lifestyle in the surrounding cities, there are a little bit different. It's a little bit more, I would say, slower paced.
For sure.
I know a lot of my friends in Waterloo that I have all are used to totally different pace of life than I am and that I was. It was a shell shock for me just to live there for a bit. I'm a city boy. I've always lived downtown. So I don't know. It's a very different lifestyle. So for them, just relaxing, hanging out is a big thing. Just, drinking beers. That's the big thing. Going to the pub. Where here, and that's pretty much, and I'm not ripping on it at all. I love Waterloo. It's probably the most fun I've ever had in my life. But that's what you get there. Yeah. And that's the night out, which is awesome.
It was very similar. Very like growing up in a Waterloo-esque place, right? Growing up in Newmarket, not really a school town, so there wasn't. It's nice in a place like a Waterloo or a Kitchener or a London where you have that. If you're in that time of your life and you're ready to just party for 4 years straight, you can't really do that in a Newmarket or Aurora. I mean, you can, but then you're looked at a little bit differently. Certainly looked at differently, but I mean, it was the same thing. There's a couple different pubs that you go to with the same guys pretty frequently to circumvent the drinking way too much in my early 20s. I was huge into cars and stuff, as I think I've mentioned before.
Pretty opposite of drinking.
Exactly. You can't do both. And when you're big into modifying cars, you don't have much money left for beer at the end of the day, which was like, okay, cool. Let's grab 6 dudes and go hang out at Tim Hortons and wax our cars. Talk about how sick we are, because that's all we did.
I cannot relate.
Moving downtown, it was totally different. That race car got sold within like the first 8 months, I think, of me moving downtown, because there's just nothing to do.
Yeah.
If I'm trying to go find a Tim Hortons and park and hang out, well,
good luck.
Good luck. Exactly.
You're gonna have to drive back to Newmarket.
I'm gonna get a ticket for parking on the street.
Yeah.
Because that's about it.
But there are all those other possibilities.
Yeah, absolutely. So much more just opportunity, so much more fast-paced. And if you want to do anything at any time, it's there, right? There's always something to do. Doesn't matter what you're into, what niche. Like, if you're into any specific hobbies or anything like that, you Facebook a group, and there is a Toronto-based group for that hobby. Doesn't matter what it is. Like, you'll always find somebody to kind of fit in with in Toronto for sure. Yeah. And if you want to go to a pub, you can go to a pub. Like, that's an option too. You want to go to a club, you can go to a club. Not necessarily where I fit in anymore, but it's a thing people do.
That is true. Yep. Yeah, you can do pretty much anything you want.
Oh yeah,
it's the city of dreams. I actually just read an article that says that Canada is the new America, where there's that American dream that people always went for. Now it's the Canadian dream.
I can see that.
And it's actually switched, and our middle class has gotten a little bit stronger than the American middle class. And I can see that a lot. And the main thing was our Calgary, Vancouver, Toronto are 3 of the cities that are constantly in the top, however many, 10, top 20 cities in the world to live in.
Gotcha. Yeah.
So Toronto's been there consistently for so long, just right at the top. And it hasn't moved, and it's only getting better. So, I mean, these are all great signs. And things you like, sports are a huge thing too.
Yeah.
I mean, how many teams do we have? I mean, all of the teams, and we have pretty good teams too.
Yeah.
I mean, we don't have Kawhi anymore.
Womp womp womp. We all saw it coming.
Yeah. Anyways, it's
okay. We got the win.
Yeah. Right? Let's not talk about basketball right now. I'm still getting over it.
Yeah, no kidding. All right. What else about Toronto? Why else should people live in Toronto?
There are so many reasons. Like, what what else can we even talk about?
I don't know. We could go on for forever. Chick-fil-A. We could talk about that.
Oh, Chick-fil-A.
We actually have. Wait, not yet. Tomorrow. I mean, as of the time that this is released, we will have a Chick-fil-A. We are finally. Tomorrow, the first Chick-fil-A in Toronto is. Or in Canada.
In Canada.
Right?
First Canadian Chick-fil-A.
First Canadian Chick-fil-A opens tomorrow. Getting me a chicken sandwich. Dodging the protesters. Apparently there's mice. So says social media. Don't care. Like chicken sandwiches.
Have you ever been to Chick-fil-A?
Nope.
I don't even... What's it compared to?
I'm assuming it's just a Popeyes. But it's like another Popeyes, KFC.
So is that
Mary
whole
Brown's.
battle going to come here now? That whole Chick-fil-A versus Popeyes chicken?
I feel like it might.
That sandwich, the Popeye sandwich, that's not coming to Canada?
I don't
Still
know.
Not here.
Didn't they run out? They can't bring it here. There's none left.
There's none.
They ran out of chicken at Popeyes.
I heard something that one of the people that works at Popeyes got held at gunpoint for all of their chicken sandwiches. That could, I don't know, it's social media.
See,
you never know.
Safe city. There we go. Circling back around to we're fine. I mean, maybe not as safe as living in the boonies or something, but we are far safer than a lot of American cities. I don't think, don't hold me to this, but I'm pretty sure you're not going to be held at gunpoint for a chicken sandwich in Toronto. It's possible.
You never know.
It's certainly possible, but the likelihood is minimal.
There's some good Portuguese chicken in this city.
True. I might hold somebody at gunpoint for a solid Portuguese half chicken. Come with it. Never mind.
I won't be holding anybody at gunpoint ever.
I will not do that. That was a joke.
It's hilarious how you have to actually say that.
Yeah, I know. No kidding. Welcome to 2019.
So how about TIFF?
That is starting today, I think. Starting to
the 5th to the 15th?
5th to the 15th. So today for sure of for 5th of September is the opening of
and a big
TIFF.
movie from your generation.
Yeah, my generation. It's okay. It is pretty much my generation. The Mr. Rogers movie. I think it's a Beautiful Day in the Neighborhood is apparently supposed to be one of the hot button movies of TIFF this year, but who really knows? Maybe
Tom
I will.
Hanks.
Maybe I won't see it. Yeah, Tom Hanks is Mr. Rogers.
That's pretty cool.
I wonder if he'll have any allegations after this movie. We will see.
Let's hope not.
Let's hope not. Let's hope not.
Yeah.
You never know with Hollywood nowadays. Anywho, that's where we're at.
It's also back to school.
Oh my God! It's that happened. Terrible transition. That happened out of no. That was a terrible transition. It happened out of nowhere.
Yeah, literally.
Absolutely
terrible
out of
transition.
Nowhere. It's I mean, driving past school buses, especially when you get into some of these little side streets leading up to our office, right?
I was driving here today. I was driving to the podcast studio today.
Yeah.
And all I hear is screams. There are a bunch of screams. And I'm like, I was looking around like, what the hell is happening here? And then I realized, a block before, a block prior, I just drove by a school and it's probably lunchtime.
Yeah.
So all these little kids are running around eating their lunches, screaming.
Yeah, no
like a
kidding.
bunch of goblins.
Oh yeah. I never had there's a time of year where I can get to the office in like 10 to 15 minutes pretty solid. And then there's a time of year where if I take one specific street, it changes that 10 to 15 minutes to like 25, 30 just to get past all the people dropping their kids off who don't give a shit about the road signs or any road laws, period, end of story. And at the same time, they ruin my Zini's pizza. If I try and go to the specific pizza spot at lunch, there's like 12 little kids sitting out front waiting for their slice. So
oh yeah,
ruins my pizza lunch.
That's where I used to go to school.
Oh yeah,
yeah. That Zini's was my.
You
place.
were one of those little shits that got in my pizza way.
Yeah, it was.
Oh man. Yeah, well,
I think that's a good note to end it on.
Yeah, no kidding. That's little shits and pizza. That's a good note.
And butt sniffers.
And butt sniffers. Oh god, that's the dog, not the kids. Let's just make sure we stay off any lists.
Oh yeah.
Anywho,
you're the one saying you're gonna hold someone at gunpoint.
I'm not. Okay, that's not happening, people. I don't want chicken sandwiches. I can afford my own.
You've never
chicken
tried
sandwiches.
it yet, though. So
that's true. Depends how good that is. I'll hold off judgment.
Yeah, maybe you will.
We don't know yet. Thanks for tuning in to the Phil and the Kid podcast. You can check us out at Phil and the Kid on Instagram, or personally, you can find me at philg.re on Instagram, or by philgardner.ca, Phil Gardner on LinkedIn, Facebook.
And you can find me at Spiro Riselis on Instagram, Spiro Riselis on Facebook, Spiro Riselis at LinkedIn, SpiroRiselis.com. And yeah, that's pretty much where you can find me.
That's it. Thanks for watching, guys, and we'll see you again next week. Boom. Good. Good. Let's get the fuck out of here.